Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome all our friends to the show that is, again, an emotional roller coaster on a week-to-week basis. We're happy, and then we're sad, and then like this week, we're kind of happy for half the show, and then the next half of the show, we're going to be sad again.
Yeah, no kidding. So I had a random question today as I was perusing through the box scores. This is a time of year where you look at what your competition is doing to see if the Mariners will ever lose a baseball game again. And I noticed that Salvador Perez hit a 3-run bomb. So he's sitting at 29 home runs, 92 RBIs on the season. So is Perez a Hall of Famer in your book?
By today's modern standards for what a catcher does, I think he played a Hall of Fame level catcher for his career.
Because he's kind of a weird guy because the StatCast people don't love him in terms of pitch framing. But, when he was going up, I mean, if you look at some of the basic numbers, like in Baseball Reference, the fielding numbers were fantastic. And obviously you got the very low walk rate. So, the sabermeticians don't love him, but when you compare the basic numbers, your home runs, your runs, and your RBIs, he kind of looks like a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, the hit total is a little bit low, only 1,700 hits, 1,703. But he does have 300 homers, 265 career average. And again, played catcher 90% of his starts. I'm sure he had some DH in there, but I'd bet it's more than 90. Won a World Series, 5-time Gold Glover, 9-time All-Star. I think he's got the accolades throughout his career of regular season awards. He's got the World Series. Again, he's a catcher, so I think you and I would both agree offensive numbers are looked at a little bit differently when you're a catcher versus if this guy was a first baseman. So, a 265 career average, the OPS for his career in the major leagues is 759, so above average offensive production for his entire career. 458 slug. I mean, I think he's in.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to point out, you mentioned the hits. Actually, 1,700 is fairly on par. I mean, very few catchers get to 2,000 hits.
At least you don't play as long. You get more off days.
Yeah, at least those who caught full time. I don't think most of them did not get to 2,000. I think Pudge did. I think both Pudges got to 2,000 hits.
Who's the other Pudge?
Well, it's Carlton Fisk and there's Ivan Rodriguez.
Oh, I didn't know he went by Pudge.
Yeah, so
that's
technically,
time, I guess.
Carlton Fisk was Pudge first.
Mike Piazza got 2,000, but he switched off first base. I mean, he switched off to first base.
Plus, I was going to point out.
I guess that's fair.
This is a conversation we'll probably have later, but do you notice what our favorite former Astro hurler did today?
JV?
Yep.
No, I know he's been pitching better, though.
7 scoreless innings. Of course, he does not get the win. So he gets an out-of-town punch in the junk award, for not getting the win, even though he had 7 scoreless innings. He's only had 3 wins on the season, even though his ERA is now well below 4. So am I crazy to think that, signing him on a reasonable 1-year deal would, we could do a lot worse?
Don't think so. I am with you. Like, I wish we would have signed him on a reasonable 1-year deal this year, looking at what the production is, where we're at right now with what's going on with Fromber. Between me and you, do you think JV would ever let Fromber act like that? Like, do you think if there was a voice in the room like Justin Verlander, Fromber would be doing what he's doing right now?
No, and that kind of spills us over into another conversation, Tim. I wrote an article on it on crawfish boxes, and the only reason I wrote it is because, commenters say what commenters do, and, any idiot with a megaphone can say anything, but there's talk on sports talk radio down here, Tim, about Joe Espada not being asked to come back. And I'm trying to figure out, Tim, we criticize managers on the daily on this show. I mean, I think every week we criticize Joe Espada for something. But I can't look overall and look at this season and figure out what he was supposed to do differently, in a macro sense.
I think I have to agree with you. I think there's individual in-game decisions where we're like, man, what was he thinking here? What was he thinking there? I didn't like all the, anytime we went to extra innings, it was Hader in the 9th and Hader in the 10th. I felt like, situations like that. But otherwise, when you look at the situation that occurred injury-wise, Joe Espada is not the problem. Joe Espada found ways to tread water with a AAA roster in June and July, right? Like, we were playing with Zach fucking Short at shortstop. We had, Bryce Matthews. We had Trammell. We had
your guy.
My guy, Cooper Hummel, getting DH fucking starts. DH starts for Cooper Hummel. That's where we were. So I don't think Espada did a poor job. What I do think is he needs to completely revamp his coaching staff, at least on the offensive side of things. I think you and I have both agreed that the approach offensively is not good, that there are a bunch of free swingers when there's statistical evidence to show you some of these guys were not always that way. Limited growth year to year for guys who are on the roster, regression in a lot of ways for others. Guys come here in free agency signings and then drop off offensively. I'm not going to blame what happened with Jose Abreu on our offensive staff, but I am going to say, like, look how Christian Walker got off to a start, and then I guess he figured out how to deal with the Houston coaching staff and found his rhythm. But I just think there's too much evidence that Cintron and the rest of the offensive staff really did not hold up their end of the bargain this year. And then if I'm Dana Brown, I'm finding new medical staff completely brand new. Like, I don't care if you're the intern. I don't care. Like, you're all gone. Like, we can't have any of you around anymore.
Well, so a few things that you hit on, and I think, tonight's game, I think, is a perfect example. Javier goes 6 strong innings. Who's pitching the 7th for you, Tim, tonight?
It's Craig Kimbrell, the Hawk.
Is he the
Condor? The Condor.
Is he the Penguin? I thought they called him the Penguin.
I don't know. I think when he's not on your team, you call him some really offensive shit. And then, it's like in Major League 2 where you're just like, Jack Parkman, man, what a change of a uniform could do for this guy. He's still a dick.
Well, and I'm going to call him the chain smoker because, he's making me want to just get out of carton.
Zach Brown band over here.
Getting a card of Luckies. But so 2 things hit me, and I really have to hit on fans are going to say what fans are going to say. But we've got, after the night, 9 games left. You've got a half game lead. It's probably still going to be a half game lead after the night because the Mariners are tied with the Royals and, they can't seem to lose. Can we wait until maybe the end of the season before we start having this conversation? Number one. But I do think somebody brought up an excellent point. Has Espada handled this Fromber situation that you referenced well? And of course, we don't know what was said in his office, but I mean, do you think Dusty Baker would have suspended his ass? Do you think he would have sat his ass down? Because to me, the one thing Dusty Baker was able to do was handle his roster well. I mean, handle personalities. That's what he was really good at. And so I would love to know.
No, I don't disagree.
I would love to know, but we don't know what Espada said. We don't know if he gave him a pat on the back, said, "Yeah, go get him next time, guy," or if he gave him a Nash chewing. We don't know.
No, we don't know what happened internally, and the Astros have never been the team to air their business externally, so we'll never know from that front. But I do think there's something interesting to the Dusty Baker angle of it all. Of how would Dusty have handled this? And I think it's probably very similar to how Joe Espada would handle this. I really do. I think Espada is a personality guy as well. I don't think the vibes from Espada are that much different than from Dusty Baker. Do you?
No, but I think there's something to be said, and I think you see this at the NFL level, particularly. You see guys that are coordinators that don't make good head coaches. And I'm not saying that about Espada, but you wonder, Dusty Baker had pelts on the wall.
Yeah.
He had 2,000 wins as a manager. I think he had close to 2,000 hits as a player. So, it's easier to respect a guy like that. It's easier for a guy like that to soft pedal you and just sit there and say, "Don't do this again, big guy." I think that exact same message and that exact same demeanor just might not come out the same from Joe Espada.
No, you absolutely have that right. Just the Hall of Very Good resume that Dusty Baker has, plus baseball's Forrest Gump, right? Like somehow, some way, everything can be related back to Dusty Baker, including the fucking high five. So that between him and Glenn Burke, that's a pretty special moment. But I to get back to the Espada of it all, I do think when you look at Fromber, there's two questions, right? It's how do you handle that one single incident, which again, we'll never know. But the bigger question of it all is how are you handling the fucking meltdown that's been going on with Fromber Valdez in the last, 7 starts when I was texting you the other day?
Yeah. You sent me 7, but actually it's more than that.
That's to me, that's the bigger concern, Scott. It's not, the one incident, like that shit happens during a season, right? Like to me, that's kind of like, when there's a fight that breaks out at training camp because you guys just been hitting on each other for too long, right? Like you guys have been together all year long, a little squabble. Like Fromber's an emotional guy. He has been his whole career. He's had trouble dealing with it. But in the last 7 starts, Fromber's worked 40 innings with a 6.25 ERA. Like it's not good. He's gone 5. He went 4 innings, gave up 5 runs, 7 innings, gave up 3 runs, 5 innings, gave up 6 runs, 7 innings, no runs, 7 innings, 7 runs, 9 innings. Sorry, I had the innings wrong. I was looking at the hits. 7 innings, 3 runs, 5 innings, 6 runs, 7 innings, no runs, 5 innings, 7 runs, 6.2, 4 runs, 5.2, 4 runs, 6 innings, 5 runs. At the end of the day, this is not a guy who's a stopper like he used to be. So from that question, I don't like how Espada is handling Fromber. And I do think personality-wise or mentality-wise or whatever it is, the message is not getting through to him.
Well, look, and I'm going to point out one thing about Fromber's performance is that in each of those games. I would say almost, almost every game. He seems to be cruising along for about 4 or 5 innings. Now, the blow-up inning happens at different points. Sometimes it happens in the first or second inning. Sometimes it happens fifth or sixth inning. But he is going to have a blow-up inning. And he's going to have an inning where just things start going sideways, and he can't get it back. The start that he had in Texas, I think, was a perfect example. Was cruising, had given up maybe 0 or 1 run, I can't remember, and then all of a sudden has 2 outs and just can't get anybody out after that. And I think that all of your other pitchers are going to figure out a way to get it done. But the other point I was going to make is look what happened with Lance McCullers. Are you telling me his hand is really hurt?
I would not think so. I think maybe, I don't know. You're going to tell me when you move the bullpen, that's when it starts sucking because your hand hurting? I refuse to believe that.
So I think what happened is that the Astros just determined we can't win with this guy right now. And, we're going to sit him down. Now, Lance, I think I don't think it was ever anything mental with him. It's physically just not happening for him.
Father Time's undefeated.
But could you sit there and this is what Dusty probably would do, is go like, oh, he kind of had a tight hammy. We're going to skip him a start and see, and soft pedal it that way to where you're not openly disciplining him, but internally everybody kind of knows what's going on.
I definitely think that's, in line with what probably should have happened. But right now, you can't do that. Like, the only thing you can do is sit there and hope to God that every time Fromber goes back out there, that this is the start that he bounces back. Because you're in a position where, you counted on Lance McCullers coming back and being a good starter for this team, and that didn't happen. You counted on Luis Garcia coming back and being a good piece for this team, and that didn't happen. You counted on, Wisniewski being a productive part, and that didn't happen. You counted on Blanco bouncing, coming back off a great season last. None of that happened, right? You let JV go because you counted on all of those things, and then now here we are. We counted on Fromber and Hunter Brown being a 1-2 monster at the front end of rotation. Okay, well, Hunter Brown's held up his portion of the bargain. And right now, as you mentioned, Fromber's unpitchable. Fromber has not given the Astros a chance to win a fucking baseball game in his last 6 of his last 7 starts.
Yeah, but we do have JP France back. No, I'm just kidding.
Is he actually back?
He is back. He is on the roster.
I missed that.
He did pitch an inning the other day. Scoreless inning, by the way. But yeah, and I think what's rough is that you have guys like Blue Bob, who has quite the consecutive scoreless inning streak going.
He looked filthy the other night.
You got Jaden Murray, who didn't look bad.
Yeah, he looks okay.
You got Colton Gordon, he's Colton Gordon.
Today's modern day Jamie Moyer.
But he's a guy that, the thing is about a Colton Gordon, I would rather have him start a baseball game right now than Fromber Valdez.
Yep.
Because
he wants to win.
Well, because the thing is that what I'm pretty sure Colton Gordon's going to give you is he's going to give up 3 or 4 runs in 5 innings. You're in the baseball game at that point. Because the other half of what I'm wondering is that you always hear this, of the pitcher who knows his team is not going to score. So he starts to press and he starts to nibble and things go bad. Do you think the same thing's happening with hitters with Fromber right now?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely got to be part of it, right? Like, hey, Fromber's on the mound. He has not been good. If we want to win, we need to score 7, 8, 9 runs. So they all go up there free swinging, hacking. I mean, that's definitely part of it. And then on the other side, Fromber's thinking, hey, they never score for me. I need to be perfect. And he blows it. But this is not a new issue, right? Like we look back to the beginning of the season where Frommer's cruising along in a game and mid-game decides he should be calling his own pitches, and that leads to what, like a 6-run inning, and we lose that game.
Yeah.
Then we have, Diaz can't catch Frommer because there's too much movement on the bike. I have stood here or sat here. I am sitting, but I have been on this podcast for 2 years. You wanted to trade Frommer 2 years ago, get something for him. I have sat here for 2 years and defended this man. And right now, there's no defense for any of it. Because not only is he costing, this guy is costing himself so much fucking money.
Oh, no kidding.
So much money, right? Like the incident, whatever, people say there's GMs who wouldn't pay him or whatever because of that. Okay, that's fine. But how about the fact that, like, when your team needs you the most, you've pitched the worst you've pitched since you were a rookie? That's what I'm circling. If I'm a guy looking to spend big money on a lefty, like, I'm highly concerned either you weren't healthy or you're not mentally capable of doing that right now. But either way, like, this is a guy we talk about getting a free type deal going into this season. There's no fucking way he gets anywhere near that now.
No, and the problem I have with that as an opposing GM as I'm looking at this situation is, can you have a guy that's any more coddled than what he is here?
I don't think so.
And I'm not even talking about just the organization. I'm talking about the fan base.
Yeah. He gets a lot of slack.
I mean, imagine him in Philly. I mean, those guys booed Santa Claus. They booed Mike Schmidt. I mean, I imagine him in Yankee Stadium. It's just, even Boston. I mean, Boston's not quite as bad as New York, but I mean, any of those teams where, people go nuts. I mean, I think, I don't know if I've told you the story. So my first year in college, you know who our closer was to start the season?
No.
The Vile Thing, Mitch Williams.
Okay. After the Philly freak out.
This is 1994, Tim. He gave up the winning home run, in the 93 World Series, Joe Carter, walk-off home run. He was getting death threats, Tim. I mean, outside of the thing with Lance McCullers, have you heard of any Houston athlete getting a death threat for failing in a game?
No.
I mean, Dave Smith blew the 1980 and 1986 NLCS. Did it twice. Everybody loved Dave Smith. I mean,
Brad Lidge blew the 2005 World Series, and we tried to bring him back the next year and applaud him through it, and he still couldn't get it fucking done.
Yeah, and then it actually, when he started pitching in low leverage, he started pitching well again. But I just don't. Yeah. So to me, if I'm an opposing GM, I got to sit there and go like, okay, do I need to have a certain veteran catcher with this guy? Okay, now is that guy on my roster? Now I have to got to go get that guy, and then I got to sit there and go like, okay, is my pitching coach gonna gel with this guy? Oh, no, got to go get a new pitching coach. I mean, it's just it snowballs, and you can't defend it.
And if I'm Fromber, right, like where can I go where I'm going to, as you said, be coddled by a fan base? You can't go to Philly. You can't go to any of the New York teams. You can't go to Boston. Dodgers, no.
Not even Chicago.
Not the Cubs. Maybe the White Sox if they want to pay you.
They suck. Yeah, you're not going
to pay you. How about how do you feel about San Diego? Probably rip his ass. Welcome to the Diamondbacks, maybe. Hello, Colorado Rockies. You're a ground ball pitcher. They might play it up like we're trying to bring it back around. Hello, Pittsburgh Pirates.
The only way those teams sign them is if Manfred actually grows some balls and said like, okay, guys, you have to actually spend some money.
I think we're at the point where he's going to sign a 1-year deal next year. I don't think he's going to get the money he thinks he deserves long-term, and it's going to be just I'll sign a 1-year deal and try and get my money again next year.
To tie a bow on this conversation, Tim, and I'm asking this honestly, because given what you just said, which is what I agree with, do you give him a qualifying offer?
Yeah.
See, the thing is, though, is that he might accept it.
And I think that's probably the best for both of us right now. Like realistically, going into next year, you are going to need to look at this starting rotation, and you're going to need to address it in a lot of ways. And I think Fromber in a year where he knows he fucked up and he's got to pitch well, I do think he's probably going to be better. But I don't know. Like I think it's definitely a tough decision.
Does he
But
know that though? And and my problem is then do you have to sit there and go like, we look at our own catching situation. Okay, obviously Diaz can't catch him. So, what are we
Diaz
doing?
is in a long term. I think you and I agree. Diaz is
Right.
a long term
But
catcher.
you see what I'm saying is that these things start snowballing and we start to sit there and go like, okay, so how do we deal with them in the future if we have a situation that comes up? So, I mean, and that's when you start to ask questions like, well, did Espada handle that situation well? Is there a different guy that you bring in, that does? I don't know. These are all questions that are going to come up if he comes back.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong. I mean, these are going to be difficult decisions this offseason. It's all dependent on these last 9 games plus potential playoffs too, right? Like what happens if Frommer goes out in 3 days and shoves in his start and one more time before the playoffs, and then all of a sudden you see Fromber of old in the playoffs and maybe now he's earned some of his money back and he'll sign a deal like Bregman, right, with a chance to opt out. I don't know, right? Like there's still a lot left to be decided because he's got at least 2 more starts left as an Astro, and I think those 2 results are going to be determining factors on playoff seeding at the minimum. If not, if we make the playoffs, and if he shoves again and he shoves in the playoffs, GMs are going to start looking a little differently again because it's what have you done for me lately? The totality of his work is pretty good. Okay, him and his agents can find a way to massage over what happened in this 7-start stretch. And so, yeah, it was just a blip. I had a little arm tightness. I pitched through it because it was a playoff race. I love my team, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's that, but those are the things that you consider. I definitely want the draft pick. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be brutal. But I think you're going to bring in a veteran arm, probably at the very least. And I have a feeling this is going to be an offseason where we see some spending. They were able to reset the clock this year. So you can go over, you'll have some penalties, sure, but they're not going to be the onerous ones. So I could see them saying, hey, okay, $20 million for Fromber. All right, we can deal with that.
I'd love to see JV back. Like if that would actually happen, I would be. I will never not be a fan of Justin Verlander unless he pitched for like the fucking Dodgers. But he didn't. He went to my wife's team, so I could still somewhat cheer for him. What about the bats, Scott? Let's talk about the bats because I feel like this is a little bit of a mirage. The last few games, like yes, they've won. Yes, they've put some decent runs up. Last night, it got a little close. But I think last night's a perfect example. Like, yes, they scored 6 runs, which is great, but there were still what did I send you? 2 of 12 or 3 of 13 with runners in scoring position.
Well, yeah, but it was there was one thing that you pointed out earlier in the season. You talked about the Giants that they did start doing. Altuve sacked a guy over. Yep. Walker had a ground out that created an RBI. Of course, Altuve had the sack fly. So they were doing some of those things better. But I think what bugs me, and I think what gets, and we saw, obviously the young kid, turn this around a bit. But
Cole,
how many guys on this team, especially with Yordán with a sprained ankle, can change the complexion of a game with one swing?
I mean, realistically, Altuve.
All right.
Correa.
But see, Correa doesn't hit many bombs.
He's clutch as shit, though.
Yeah, no. And what I'm talking about, though, is that one inning where we got 5 straight hits. But I think they were all singles. That's the kind of way that this team scores runs. We get hits in bunches, but we're not really except for that rare game, we're not really, hitting a bunch of extra base hits.
No, it's still death by 1,000 paper cuts for sure. But at least they are getting the hits. Cole was supposed to come in here and provide a spark, was Dana Brown's thought process, and I do think he's done that. Especially, coming in for a game where Jordan gets hurt running the bases, and then he ends up hitting a home run and another base hit there. He gets 4 RBIs in his first start, homers on the first pitch he sees. He's been great. Altuve seemed to have woken back up a little bit after a pretty terrible stretch. Correa's got multiple hits in quite a few games lately. Like, the bats have seemed to woken up, pardon me. But again, I just, are you buying it? Like, I don't feel like sold on this.
Well, and I'm going to make an analogy where and I think we're going to make this analogy later on in the show. It seems like everything's difficult. And that,
Yeah,
and
even
so,
a 6-1 game last night turns into a 6-5 tight game.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying offensively, like it's difficult, and we try to, we don't, take pitches like, when we get like a up 3-0, 3-1, we're swinging away even at pitches that you really can't do anything with, and you're wasting a hitter's count. So I liked what I've seen from Cole. I think the scouts compared him to Joey Gallo, a young Joey Gallo. There's parts of that intrigue me. There's parts of that kind of scare me. 200 Ks a year, I'm not really a big fan of that concept, but 40 home runs, 100 walks, I sure am. So, I guess, would you take that on balance?
Right now, yes, because as you mentioned, there's just not a ton of that big pop, and also we're not playing this out over a whole year. We're playing this out over like the next 2 weeks, right? Like, that's really all we need from this kid is a 2-week, 3-week hot stretch, because this is a pretty full roster going into next year if everybody's healthy. I don't even know if Cole's the guy who makes the roster next year unless he has a great spring training. But what I do know is he has a chance right now to impact this season. So, Joey Gallo had stretches where he wasn't a 190 hitter. He had stretches of really good play. We just need one of those stretches right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get, right? But I did look up his minor league numbers, is that he has played center field. So I'm a guy right now, unless you really think he needs AAA seasoning, he's 25 years old. He's not a kid. So I'm thinking if you're going to have, like, say, your Sanchez and Cam Smith toggling right and left field, having a Cole as your fifth outfielder, as a guy that's capable of playing center. So if you have Myers go down for an extended period of time, you're not throwing out Taylor Trammell or Chas McCormick or Jacob Melton. I actually, because to me, he's a guy that can do double play. He's a guy that can do stuff. He's an athlete. We talked about that before, where we had Trammell's an athlete, but we talked about Bryce Matthews being an athlete as well. And so those are the kinds of guys that at least, he can impact you defensively. And we've seen that with Cam Smith as well. We've seen that with Jake Myers. So that sounds like a good outfield group to me.
Yeah, I'm fine with him as potentially a fifth outfielder. I'm fine with him getting a chance to make the team. I'm just saying that's not a guarantee the way this roster plays out healthy, right? So what he can do is he's got guaranteed at bats right now. Take advantage of them, because again, 9 games left after tonight, 3 of which are against the team who's a half game ahead of you. Probably going to be a full game by the time we face them again, because they're going to play the Royals tomorrow while we're off. So you're going to be a game back with 3 left to play, or 3 games straight up against the team that's ahead of you. Win all 3, you're in control the rest of the way. I posed a question to you. Right now, the way things sit, the Astros are a second wild card, which would put them against the Yankees in that wild card round. Or if you win the division, you're most likely going to take on the third wild card, which would be the Mariners. Is there any part of you that wants to start playing matchups at this point, or it's win the division or bust?
I don't think it's win the division. I think it's get in. And that's the number one priority right now. Because the Guardians, I mean, right now as we sit, the Guardians are sitting there winning. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you there, but I don't like the matchup with the Yankees overall. However, if you look at the season series, what was it, 3-3?
Yeah, we've played them fairly well at times.
And the Mariners, we have not played as well. And the Mariners are hot. I mean, obviously, I think I'll be able to tell you a whole lot more after this weekend. But as everything is right now, I guess give me the Yankees.
Yeah. I just saw that and I was like, you know what? I'm not scared of the Yankees. I'm not that I'm scared of the Mariners, but if you end up as a second wild card and that's where things stay, okay. Yeah, we've had a pretty darn good playoff history against New York.
I'm not scared of anybody because I'm not even at that point. I'm at the point where if the Astros show up, we can beat anybody. If the Astros don't show up, we can lose to anybody. And that's basically where this season's at right now.
No, absolutely. Speaking of which, not showing up, Houston Texans offense, where the fuck are you? We were very excited going into the season, new look offense, who dis, all that stuff. Well, I don't see a fuck lot of difference so far.
Tim, we scored 19 points. There are teams in the 1940s that would have loved to have scored 19 points. Imagine with the single wing. I mean, they would have, they would have jizzed in their pants if they'd seen, that pass that we threw to Nico Collins in the end zone. I mean, it would just unbelievable. Now I'm talking about the first one, not the two that missed wide left. I don't know, Tim. Right now we're last in the NFL in points, which I think tells you everything that you need to know. And I think what flummoxes me, and I get it, but you hear D'Amico Ryans, oh, we're so close. We don't have the same issues as last year. This is an entirely different team, and they're picking up the stunts. They're doing the things, and it's like, what team are you watching, D'Amico? Are they in the room with us right now? I don't get it. And to me, I'm not starting this conversation right now because I just got on the press about premature conversations. But if this continues, October, November, there's going to have to be a conversation about CJ Stroud. It's going to have to be.
You can't not. The way that things are right now with the type of money that are going to these guys on extensions, like you can't not have that conversation. And it's completely your own fault. You've let him take way too many hits. And we saw it happen to David Carr when he was here. Like, you can't let a guy just get lit the fuck up like that. You can't keep matching him with first-time fucking coordinators. How about that, Scott? Like, Bobby Sloak was a first-time play caller. We get rid of him, and then we go get another first-time play caller. Like, Kaylee is literally learning how to call plays on the job. And the perfect example is you got a second down and goal at the 1 yard line. You run it one time, you get stopped. Then you run a fade to the back of the end zone, you get stopped. Then you go for it on fourth down on a rollout play to the left side of the end zone. And that was a terrible fucking call and a terrible throw. How many points did we lose by, Scott?
Last time I checked, 1.
1. Would have been 2 if they kicked the extra point. It would, So if that 3 points is on the board, there's your ball game right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't know. Obviously, you don't know.
Right, but that's why are we? If we're gonna go for it on fourth down, give me a good fucking play call. Give me a competitive play.
Where I'm going to be at with D'Amico Ryans is that I think if you look at it in a vacuum, the stats would tell you go for it, right? From the 1 yard line.
Yes.
They would tell you.
They'll tell you to run the fucking football.
Well, yeah, the analytics will tell you to go for it. And then the other thing, from an emotional standpoint, you're saying like, "Hey, I'm showing confidence in my team. I'm showing them that we're going to go for it." But the thing is, do they deserve that confidence right now? And I would say no. And so I would have kicked the points because I don't have confidence that you can gain a yard. Because, yeah, you can sit there and say, run it up the gut 3 times, but we saw them run it up the gut once, Tim. That didn't work. So, I could sit there and see the defense.
Seattle lost.
Oh. I could see the whole idea of going like, okay, let's just run up the gut.
I think a fake field goal would have been a better fucking call there.
Yeah. But I think what bugs me about, and this has been true throughout the D'Amico Ryans era, is what does he tell us about what kind of team he wants to be, Tim?
Tough, physical, swarm mentality.
And on offense, what does that look like, Tim?
It means running the ball, establishing the line of scrimmage, winning at the point of attack.
Are we doing those things, Tim?
Fuck no, we're not, and haven't ever since he's been here.
And, because Nick Chubb, we were talking about last week. Well, he looked good in the 12 carries he got in week 1. Let's give him a few more touches. Did he get more touches, Tim?
I don't think so.
No, and then you got Daria Mugabali on the field.
And how about that? Every time you put him on the field, it's an obvious passing play, and then he goes out and can't pass block. Like, he gets blown the fuck.
Trucked.
Yeah, he got absolutely lit up. You drafted a guy to be your quote unquote H-back. Bring him in to fucking block. Like, bring him in to lay the lumber and keep your quarterback safe, because Dari is a great story. It's fun to have a kicker who kicked a field goal last year when shit got fucking crazy. But like, this is, to me, is he any different than Charles I Wear Fun Socks James? Like, it was fun to have him on the field. It was fun to let him play a little running back and see him on Hard Knocks. But when we actually started playing football, he couldn't compete at this level. And you can't sit here and tell me that Dari is the best option that you have to pass protect in that situation.
No.
And if you can, then it's time to get somebody else in here.
Woody Marks actually had a couple of really good blocks on the game. I would rather now here's what I'll say about Dari as opposed to Charles James or any of those other guys. He might be your best special teams player. He might be. Unless, if you're going to count Fairbairn, and that's fine. But as a gunner or as a guy in coverage, he might be the best you got. I don't have a problem with him being on the 53-man roster. Now, do you realize who was not suited up for this game, Tim?
Was it Pierce?
It would be Damian Pierce, because Frank Bush earlier in the week said he is not returning kicks for me. Well, I think you found your kick returns.
Oh, God, yeah, we did.
So what purpose does Damian Pierce serve right now?
None. Absolutely none.
So to me, what I would be doing right now is I would be cutting his ass, and I would call up Jawar Jordan, or I'd be looking for a trade, or I'd be looking on the free agent market and go like, who is a warm body I could stick in here that I know that A, could at least, engage a guy on a block and maybe slow him down just a little, and is not going to fumble the ball in the open field. Can you give me a guy who can do those two things? And that's your third back. I need to see a steady diet of Nick Chubb and Woody Marks from now on. Those are your two backs until Joe Mixon comes back, if he ever comes back.
Chubb still looks not 100%. Like, I don't know if when he got his touchdown run to put us up late in the fourth quarter, the gate just looked off, right? Like, this didn't look like a guy who was running free. It just looked like a guy who's running through pain or just doesn't trust everything yet. I'm still not 100% sure he's healthy.
Trusting it, as obviously he's come off of 2 years of injuries. So, I mean, and I have no problem. See, to me, Nick Chubb is a really nice backup running back. Because I don't know if you saw, both he and Woody Marks had some really nice passing plays to them in the flat in the first half. 37 yards for Marks. What was it, like 20 plus yards for Chubb? Did we see any more passes in the flat, Tim?
No, we didn't.
And I'm still struggling to understand that. But so to me, Nick Chubb does the things. He's a veteran. He knows who to block. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He's going to gain positive yards for you on just about every carry. Is he going to, be a Saquon Barkley? No. I don't think he's ever going to be that 1,500-yard back again. But you don't have Joe Mixon right now. I don't know for how long. I don't know if if he's got Tom Dempsey foot. I don't know. But and then they won't tell us how long he's out. If he's out for 2 more weeks, I can limp along with this. But if he's going to be out an extended period of time, you got to let Dameon Pierce go and you got to bring in somebody.
I think regardless of how long he's out, you have to let Dameon Pierce go and you have to bring in somebody. You're in a situation where, like, theoretically, this is why you keep a Dameon Pierce is your starting running back is out. Chubb's not a guy who can carry the full load coming back from an injury. And Dameon Pierce theoretically could be the other half of that equation, right? Experienced guy, was the starter, tough-nosed runner. If you can't make the game day roster in this situation, even when the hat is being tipped in your favor, the scale is being tipped in your favor, what the fuck? Why do I hold on to that spot for you at all? There's got to be somebody out there who wants it more and can give me something that you're not giving me. Because the special teams part, you're right. We've got our guy. We don't need Dameon Pierce returning kicks because Jalen Noel is absolutely electric back there. And I'd much rather have him than Dameon Pierce ever again.
So I'll give you a name. Can we agree that the Jets suck?
Yes.
How would you like Breece Hall?
I'd love Breece Hall.
I mean, and I don't think they're going to give up on the season quite this early. Although the Jaguars traded it back, after week 1, Tank Bigsby got traded. So, why weren't you in on that one? Well, that was 2 draft picks, number 1. But
and in the division, they probably would have traded to us.
Would you give a 5th for Breece Hall?
Oh, yeah.
Or would you give how high would you go before you would say no?
I'd say a 4th.
So I think a 4th is reasonable. I mean, and you got extra picks from all these draft day trades that you've been making. Let's start converting it into something. Because to me, I think Breece Hall immediately becomes your starter. And then that means Nick Chubb becomes your backup, which is, I think a good role for him. And Whitty Marks is a really good 3rd down back.
No, you're absolutely right. It's the roster makeup gets immediately better with a situation like that. And you get a guy who can carry the burden a little bit more. Because as good as Nick Chubb looked, like he's still on a pitch count. Right? Like he's not getting more than 15 touches a game. I don't see that happening at least till midway through the season. You know that, okay, he can handle that. So again, if you know that your running game is based around a guy who can't carry the rock more than 15 times, that's not a good situation.
And how many times and how many carries is Whitty Marks going to get realistically?
4, 5 max.
Yeah, I mean,
couple screen plays.
He's not a 10 carry a game back. So if you're saying we're going to be a good, hard, tough running team, and you got guys that you can't give a combined 20 carries to,
right?
What are you doing?
Let's be honest. Like, as an offensive coordinator, player personnel is part of your makeup, right? Like on this formation, I want this back in, or in this situation, I want this guy in there. Anytime you bring Jari into the game, you're giving yourself away. You're literally saying, hey guys, it's going to be a pass. Right? Like at this point in time, you are tipping your hand the moment this guy comes into a game. And then he makes it a more dangerous situation. Then you add in, let's look at motion, okay? The Texans, through the first 2 games of the season, have had motion on 6.3% of their pass plays. Do you know where that ranks in the NFL, Scott?
I'm guessing dead ass last.
Dead fucking last. Do you know why? Do you know why you put players in motion pre-snap?
Well, it forces you. It actually tells you what the defense is doing,
Exactly.
and it forces them to commit to things, and maybe it confuses them.
Yes. All of those things. On top of that, some guys, it helps them get a cleaner release, right? Like if you've got a guy who's been getting jammed at the line of scrimmage, you bring him across the formation or whatever it is, he can get a clean release into the flat for a quick play. All of those are things that CJ needs, right? Like a quick throw. When you don't have 20 carries to share, right? What can you do? Well, you can hit quick plays in the flat like the Patriots used to do with Wes Welker and use that essentially as your running game, right? Get it out immediately. That doesn't happen. You can bring a guy and just shuffle him back and forth just so you can see what's the defense doing. Are we in zone? Are we in man? Can we see if they tip their hand at all? CJ could definitely use that, right? Give me a little bit of a read. We don't fucking do that. Like you do nothing to help this guy out. And I really don't understand the philosophy behind it. I don't. I at the time, I think you and I were both like okay with the Nick Caley hiring. Like it wasn't. I don't think it was ever who we truly wanted. I think you and I both thought Chip Kelly would have been the ultimate choice. But I just don't love the fact that in CJ's entire career, he's had 2 first-time play callers. You come from San Francisco, which is part of the Shanahan coaching tree. It's a massive fucking tree. You're telling me there's not one person in that coaching tree who couldn't come call plays? You're telling me maybe Gary Kubiak couldn't have done us a favor and come and call plays?
Well, here's my question, Tim, because you mentioned the motion. When Nick Caley took the job, he told us he was going to bring in more motion. So here's my question then. Because, he was also a guy that loved, talked about playing 2 and 3 tight ends. Well, we saw Harrison Bryant trip over the 50-yard line. Pass was going right to him. That 50-yard line just jumped up, grabbed him. Oh, it gets you every time, Tim. So my question is then, are we not doing motion because, he just forgot and lied to us? Or is there something that he's going like, this team can't handle motion right now? Is that what, like this team we can't run 2 tight end sets because we only have 1 decent tight end. So
Well, you could still use Noel, right? Like line Noel up in the slot and bring him across the formation. They used to bring Cooper Kupp in motion often in LA and get him free releases into the flat and let him work his way up the field, like with some good blocking ahead of him. Those are things that the Texans can and should do. You're a little ahead of me.
All right. So just making the announcement, the Astros have swept the Rangers.
Silver boot, baby.
We have won silver boot for another year. And it doesn't officially eliminate them from playoff contention, but I mean, it's going to have to be a pretty bad, last 9 games.
I think I had a great idea just now. What if I got a giant silver boot with like an Astros, logo on it and displayed it in my yard here in the Metroplex? Do you think it would be well received? And as long as we have the silver boot, I get to display it.
Yeah, no, you might get some household bathroom products.
I don't think people care enough about the Rangers here to really fuck with my house. I really don't. I fly an Astros flag in my front yard 365.
Yeah, so that's true. That's true. All right, so what that means is that your Astros are in first place by a whole half of a game. I'm imagining that it'll probably be even by the time that we play the Mariners on Friday. But hey, you go into the Mariners series, no worse than in a tie for first place.
But let's get back to this Texans team because I think there's still more to discuss, Scott.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
I think to me, the offense was certainly frustrating, but at the end of the day, the offense did give you the lead in the fourth quarter and told the defense, hey, go protect 5-point lead, go protect it, right? And you had this Bucs team, 4th down and 10. You bring a corner blitz, 2-0, has Baker Mayfield in the backfield for what would have been the game-ending play, right? And somehow Baker gets loose, 20-something yard scramble down the field, and now here we go. I don't know if we should be concerned because that you have none of your starting tackles on the field for majority of that game, and especially in that fourth quarter, and you couldn't seal the game defensively.
Part of that's bugging me, Tim, but see, and I think what was bugging me more was that we were absolutely gashed the whole game with the run.
Yes.
And you mentioned injuries, I guess I didn't realize that we were missing defensive tackles, but you know who was guarding, the Baker Mayfield's, backside for much of the game?
I don't know.
Remember a name, Charlie Heck?
Yes. I thought I recognized him.
And he was not good enough to be on this line for some reason because we needed Blake Fisher really badly. But I'm sorry. And Danielle Hunter had a good game. He had two sacks. Will Anderson, 10 pressures. So those guys were balling out. But these defensive tackles are not good against the run. Sheldon Rankins had a sack of his own, had one erased by a stupid penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty. But, there's just too many times when you had a very average running game gashing you for 7 and 8 yards. I mean, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are the number 1 rushing team in the NFL right now. So I'm not liking that matchup.
Yeah, that's definitely worrisome. That we're not forcing turnovers at the rate I thought maybe this secondary would. And again, when you've got the cover corners that the Texans have, you've got Petrie, you've got CJ Gardner-Johnson, and you've got 2 premier edge rushers, and you're handed a 5-point lead with just over 2 minutes left to go. I expect you to close that fucking game out. I really do. And especially, again, 4th down and 10. The fucking blitz got home, right? You called the right play. It hit. You just completely let him escape the pocket, had no spy, had no nothing, and boom. At that point, the game was over.
Yeah, and I thought, and I talked about the defensive ends. I thought Stingley played much better on Sunday. You didn't hear much from Mike Evans for most of the game.
I think it was 4 catches, 45 yards for a guy who's going to be the first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So, I mean, and he had 2 defensive, he had 2 breakups that, were, Pro Bowl level. So to me, that didn't bother me. It's just these linebackers. You mentioned Toa, but also, Al-Shair had that interception in the first quarter that he just dropped.
Yeah.
It's like that was like a punt. You got to come up. The thing is that you mentioned the no turnovers. The other thing is you got to get off the field. A lot of these 10 and 15 play drives, you got to find a way to get off the field.
And I think a great example of that is right after the Texans go for it on 4th down at the 1-yard line. Okay, the Bucs offense comes out. Okay, get a stop, get short field position. What do? 3rd down, you let it up. 3rd down, let it up. Okay, eventually you get the stop, but they ran 12 plays. They got out to the 35, 40-yard line, and now they're looking to pin you deep instead of, what could have been great field position. Luckily, I think that was the Jalen Noel punt return. Oh, the block, right, came at that point. But then you get, again, 3 plays. I think you lost a yard total on that 3-play series where you went negative 1 yards. So, the special teams was fantastic. And I think
scored the points, Tim. You scored the points. But honestly, you look at it, if you give up 20 points, should you win most of the
time? Probably 50-50. I think that's about the area where
but
20, 21 points.
Definitely the Rams game, you give up 14. I mean, you should be winning that game.
I thought the defense played better against the Rams than they did against the Bucs. But also, I think Baker Mayfield is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL simply because of his height. Like the things that he does, if he was 6'4", he's Josh Allen, right? Like the way he runs with the football, his accuracy, the touchdown passes, the swagger, all that stuff. Like if he was just a little bit taller, he would be talked about as an MVP candidate, as Josh Allen, as a guy who could run and do all these amazing things. It just so happens he's not as tall as these guys, and quite frankly, he's just constantly overlooked.
Most touchdown passes in the NFL over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and they remembered what happened last time they were in Houston when they left CJ a little bit of time on the clock. They certainly milked it all the way down to 6 seconds from inside the 10-yard line. I mean, they played to win the game where I feel like the Texans played to not lose.
Yep.
All right, you want to start giving out some awards?
Yep, we can.
All right, Scott, who do you want to pow right in the kisser this week?
Okay, so again, this is going to be a proverbial ceremonial award because I'm not going to actually do this because I am steadfastly against violence against women. However, I had a former classmate. I'm not going to call her out by name because I don't believe in doxing, generally speaking. But one of the things, she came out with a Facebook post, and she said, like, I've done my due diligence, Tim. That's what she said. I've done my due diligence, and I've come to the determination that Christian Kirk's a godly man, great man, and his words have been taken out of context. So I think he was martyred, and a good Christian leader has been taken away from us. And then she gave us the whole, don't come at me. If you don't like it, unfriend me, all that kind of, I don't want to debate. So you come out, you drop this bomb, and then say, I don't want to debate. And so the first thing I told her is I said, I disagree with you 100%. But I think we can disagree and be peaceful in this country. And I think what happened was horrible. Second thing I told her was that obviously you haven't done due diligence, because if you were going to do due diligence, you as a white Christian female probably should want to talk to somebody who is not white or Christian and ask them what is their experience of the person who we're talking about. What's their experience? Let's go talk to an African American. What's their experience with that? Let's talk to a homosexual, which I did, because I have an ex-student who's now a teacher who came out and actually saw the same thing because they were former colleagues. So I got to talk to her about it. Talk to somebody who is a recent immigrant. See what their experience is with that. And when you go and you talk to them and get their experience from that, then you can say you've done your due diligence. But to me, to sit there and read comments online, just go, yeah, I agree with that. I've done my due diligence. He's a good guy. No, that's not how this works. And whether or not you agree that the speech is hateful or bigoted or racist or misogynistic or homophobic, transphobic, which I agree, I think it was all those things, you could at least admit that it's divisive, because that means that it was offensive to people, that some people it was offensive to, and you can admit that much. And if you're going to come out and say, well, I think it's perfectly fine, at least you should come with the experience of talking with people who actually have experienced prejudice, have experienced discrimination, and experienced that hate and that vitriol firsthand. That's the least that we can do as people who are in, you and I, Tim, we are straight white Christian males. The world favors us. I mean, we're part of the chosen group here in the United States. So the least that I can do is I can talk to people who don't have that experience. See what the world is like from their point of view. And maybe then I can understand.
You're absolutely right. And I cannot stand the people who are asking for context behind everything right now, right? Like, you want context, go listen to his show, right? His show is full of context, and it was unabashingly one thing, right? And it was, in my opinion, blasphemous. More than anything, um, to me, when we look at what it means to take the Lord's name in vain, I don't know about you, like, but I was taught like it means to, like, don't say goddamn, right? Like that's what it was taught. But as I've gotten older, people like him, people like Joel Olstein, people like um, Falwell, who have used Christianity to enrich themselves, that's taking the Lord's name in vain to me. When you are taking advantage of a group of people and you're using Jesus or invoking Jesus as to why they should buy your merch, that's a problem. That's a really, 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 really big problem. And it's a problem that I, as a lifelong Catholic, cannot overlook. So I don't care if he quoted scripture. I don't care. I think, to me, another, I think these gentlemen are very, very similar. Some people may argue, but Alex Jones quotes scripture on his show all the time. Alex Jones claims that God wakes him up in the middle of the night with fucking prophecies that he needs to get on the radio and talk about. They're all hateful and bigoted, but according to him, they are coming from God. So why is it that most of society could look at Alex Jones and say, this guy's bad? There's a few people who are info warriors who appreciate him, but for the most part, we've looked at him and said, this guy's bad. He's a lunatic. But somebody else who's doing the same thing, we're going, no, he was a real Christian. He was a real one. And anybody who says otherwise is a hateful leftist and they need to be exterminated. Because that's literally what the vice president of the United States said on Charlie Kirk's podcast that he hosted for him from the fucking White House. So
save it, Tim. Save it. Save it. But no, I was going to say that I don't know Charlie. I did not know Charlie Kirk. I am willing to give him every benefit of the doubt that, I can give him and say that he was a good man in private, maybe a good husband, good father, right? And I've heard similar stories about people like Sean Hannity and people like that who are, good people. But it becomes a distinction without a difference. That if I argue things that I don't believe because it can make me money, then it's really no better than if I actually believe those things.
I'd say in actuality, Scott, it's worse. Because at least if you believe in those things, like, you're doing what you truly think is right because those are your beliefs. When you're doing it truly for a fucking paycheck, that's worse.
That's what the Catholic Church defines as blasphemy, Tim. Blasphemy is when I know the truth and I purposely preach against it. And the church teaches that is the only unforgivable sin. Now, that's the Catholic Church, folks. You agree with it, disagree with it. And the whole part about, free speech, which I'll get a little bit more to later, is that, I absolutely agree that he should have been able to say anything he wanted to say. And I have absolutely no problem with anybody agreeing with what he said. That's your right as well. However, you're not free from the consequences of your speech. And we get to respond to that speech. That's part of how free speech works.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, we can't be forced into a response, right? Like, we can't be told you all have to be okay with this rhetoric, and anybody who speaks out over it is going to lose their job and is going to be hunted down. And we're keeping a a list of people who have said negative things about Charlie Kirk, and we're going to track down your employees, aka Pam Bondi. Like that's where we're at, right? Like we're being told you have to accept this level of speech. You have to accept this into your lives. And again, people have made the comparison to what happened in Minnesota, and the lack of outrage, or people even celebrating her death on the right. It's not the same, but at the same time, no one on the left forced you to accept that. No one on the left forced you to have your flags at half mast. No one on the left tracked down your job status and did these things, right? Like it's becoming more and more scary to be an American citizen by the day.
Absolutely. All right, Tim. Hopefully you got a little bit of a lighter note on yours.
Not really, Scott, because I wanted to. Mine was going to be the people who keep asking for context, right? Like I think I just explained why. Like I can't stand those people. I can't stand the. Not everything deserves context. I believe in free speech, but also I deserve I think as with people who say hateful things all the time, the expectation of free speech is that society comes out and goes, "This is really bad. You should shut the fuck up," right? Like. You can't do Nazi shit in Germany. Like, yeah, they have free speech, but like they won't let you be a Nazi. Like there is a fucking line. And in the history of time, at least as long as fascism has existed, they push for the free speech because it means they can say whatever they want. And then once they're in power, they take it away. Well, now here we are and it being taken away after the free speech absolutists and the constitutionalists, whatever they want to call themselves, were the ones who got us here. So if I could punch every one of the original Tea Party people in the face, I would.
Get in the wheelie chair and just spin it around. Yeah, and I think, and I noted to you that a handful of teachers have lost their jobs.
It's 154 now.
Part of me, I was thinking Texas locally, but we had one in our district. I'm not sure if they were just disciplined or they got fired. I don't want to speak out of turn there. So I don't know. But what I will say is I haven't said anything offensive because I don't take any comfort, any glee, any happiness at the events that happened this past week. None. Because part of me knew what was going to happen. And I'm going to get to that when I get to a later portion of the show.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, horse's ass this week, Scott. Who do you have for us?
Horse's ass. Oh, I got to remember the. Just give me a minute here, Tim.
I'll go first on this one, Scott.
Got it.
We'll switch up the order a little bit. I'm going Nick Caley. The play calling this week was garbage. I mentioned the second down and goal to go at the one. Inexcusable that you didn't just run the ball 3 fucking times from there. Why does no one else in the NFL do the quarterback sneak? It clearly works when the Eagles do it. Why the fuck can we not try it one time? Anything would have been better than what we did. I've mentioned the lack of motion. I've mentioned the lack of running game. You've got a really nice new big receiver on the outside. He didn't get his first catch until the third quarter, maybe even the fourth quarter. You're forcing the ball to Nico Collins, forcing it. And you still haven't figured out how to call a game that gets CJ into rhythm. Like it's absolutely awful. And then I'm going to do a second minor horse's ass. I didn't know where to fit this in, but he sucks all the time. Joe Buck. Okay. I'm driving home. I've got the game on my phone playing through the car speaker. So I'm really listening more than watching. CJ misses his first pass, hits his second pass for 9 yards. Do you remember what Joe Buck said on the 3rd and 1?
Oh, I can't remember.
After a very quick start, CJ Stroud faces a 3rd and 1. I'm sorry. He's 1 of 2 for 9 yards. And we're calling that a very quick fucking start? Come on, man.
I thought there was like a conversation where it's like, Nick Chubb used to be a Cleveland Brown and now he's in a Texans uniform. Weird how that happens.
That would have been better. That would have been better than telling me
He
one
actually
of two
said that.
completions.
I'll co-sign you, but I'll just say the Texans offense. I think Nick Caley is certainly part of it. I think that series of plays there and the goal line was absolutely abysmal. To me, if you're a team and you can't ram it up the middle 3 times and gain a yard, then just pack your bags and go home. But I think eventually, like I said earlier, we're going to have to start looking closer at CJ Stroud, particularly in those plays. Neither of those were competitive balls. Those are not balls that Nico Collins could have come down with. And for the guy that was in college and he was, auditioning for, roles in the NFL, said he was a ball placement specialist. Remember that, Tim?
I do, yeah.
How was the ball placement on those 2 plays?
Terrible.
And I think I think there is some David Carr stuff going on where it's like he has an internal clock and that internal clock is all messed up because of, just the pressure rates that are coming at him. And the beauty is that a team like the Bucs, I don't think by and large didn't get a ton of pressure on him, but they made him feel it. And so he probably rushed some throws and, and he's got that thing where he backs up and, is going 10, 20 yards back. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Justin Fields. That's not who he is. He's a guy that can gain 10, 15 yards on an occasional scramble, and he still did those things. In fact, up until the Nick Chubb's touchdown run, I think he was the team's leading rusher. That kind of tells you something there, Tim.
Yeah.
They had, I think they said 18 running back carries before that Chubb run for 32 yards. How does that grab you, Tim?
It grabs me in a very bad way. That's not what you're looking for.
So on the one hand, I'm sitting there, I'm banging on D'Amico Ryans for not being a run-first team, but how can you be a run-first team when that's what you're producing? This feels like 2023 before we got Joe Mixon, when, we were trying to fumble along with Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce. And most of the games, I'm like, don't run it on first down. It's just a wasted down. And I feel like that's, where we are on most of our running plays these days.
No, you're totally right. And you brought up a great point on CJ backing up. The Texans have given up the 8th most sacks in the NFL so far through 2 weeks. They're number 1 in yards lost on those sacks. So these aren't, getting close to back to the line of scrimmage and they bring CJ down. Like, no, these are 15 fucking yard sacks that he's taking.
Yeah, and he's just not the athlete that can do that. That's not who he is.
All right, Scott, let's get positive for a second here. How about we tip a cap?
Okay, I'm going to take a hat tip that you may have been going with, but I am going to go with Zach Cole. Just the latest from a long line of guys. We asked the question earlier, I think I did via text. Was that first game more impressive, or was Bryce Matthews' 2-homer game more impressive?
I think that first game's more impressive, actually, now that I think about it. You're riding the emotions of a call up. Your mom's in the stands. First pitch you see is a fucking tank job. You're there literally, as the GM said, to provide a spark, and you have a 4-hit night in your first ever game. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it came at the right time, which I think Bryce Matthews did at the time that they needed it. And he's been compared to Joey Gallo. Okay, what do we know about Joey Gallo? Joey Gallo, ton of power, absolute power at the yin-yang, which Cole has not demonstrated at the minor league level yet. He has not demonstrated that kind of power. However, oozes athleticism. And they said that, he was drafted in the 10th round mainly because of that swing and miss, because there was a ton of swing and miss in this game. And he is the kind of guy that I am begging for scouts to add a sixth tool, where I want a plate discipline tool, because he seems to be a guy that can recognize balls and strikes. He's just a guy that swings and misses at those strikes, which happens. I think Christian Walker is one of those guys. Christian Walker is a guy that, by and large, for the most part, recognizes balls and strikes. He's just a guy that swings and misses a lot. So that means they have the plate discipline tool, but not the hit tool, which there are very few true 5 or 6 tool players in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's got quite a few homers, and he only played 30-something games in Double-A.
Yeah, played. Yeah, and he came up and was blistering in Sugarland.
And he's got pop, as you mentioned. He's shown some of it. He showed it on the first pitch he saw. Definitely worthy of the hat tip. I'm going to go with another Astro as well. A guy that I think has been a horse's ass at different points this season, but Brian King. I think he deserves a hat tip. He got the save tonight, worked an inning and a third, but he has really stepped it up here lately, Scott. This is a guy that we've talked about was leaking oil, didn't want to see him in the 7th inning. It made us quite nervous to see this guy in certain situations. But now when you look at it, the last 7 appearances, he's 1-0 with an ERA of 0.00. His last 30 games, he's 2-2 with a 1.97. His last 15, he's 2-0 with an 0.56. The batting average against right-handed hitters is fantastic, and I think the Astros have kind of figured out he's not a guy who they can go lefty-lefty with. That's not who he is. His stuff allows him to do really well against right-handers, and they've started using him a lot better in that sense, and I think he's been a lot better. Maybe had a little arm fatigue, whatever it was. He had 3 or 4 bad outings in a row, but I give him a lot of credit for riding the ship, especially at a time where Hader is out. Abreu threw a lot of pitches the first 2 games of the series. You came in, you shut it down, and now all of a sudden you're a half game back up in first place.
Well, and then obviously the good news with that is that, you get a day off tomorrow. So Abreu gets 2 days off. And so, he should be fresh for, the opening of the Mariners series, which is turning out to be obviously the series of the year. Who would have thought that a month ago? But, that's how these things work. And really, the Astros have not been, I think their September record now has got to be pretty good. It's just the Mariners and the Rangers, up until the Rangers came here, were playing some absolute great baseball.
Before tonight, the Mariners had won 10 straight ball games, which is, a great time to have a run like that. But at the end of the day, it ends tonight. And I did want to give another hat tip, a secondary hat tip to Cal Raleigh. Let's just take a moment to, I know he's on the team that's, in a dogfight with us for the division, but as 2 guys who love the game of baseball. Last night, Cal Raleigh hit 2 home runs, the first of which tied Mickey Mantle for the single season switch hit home run record. And the second home run tied Ken Griffey Jr. for the Mariners single season home run record. So now that put him ahead of Mickey Mantle for that switch hitting home run record. And his next homer put him ahead of Ken Griffey Jr. 2 unbelievable names that you get a chance to put yourself in association with by having just a fantastic season for Cal.
Yeah, and I think you can make a definite argument that Aaron Judge is a better overall baseball player, but you can make the argument that Cal Raleigh is the American League MVP.
I think you're right, because he plays catcher, and I can't even imagine what this Mariners team would be if they didn't have Cal Raleigh.
Well, but you have a funny, here's a funny thing, Tim, and I don't know if you realize this, but Suarez hit his 46th bomb of the season tonight. Could you imagine? Can you imagine having 2 guys on your team with 50 bombs?
Yeah, but I think Suarez is a false positive, right? Like he hit a majority of those with Arizona.
Right. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but and then Julio Rodriguez has really gotten hot for them lately.
They have the pieces to be good offensively. They just never clicked at the same time all year. And then here we are in the dog days of September, and they are certainly clicking. Let's talk about our worst people of the week, Scott. Who do you have as your scumbag of the week?
You mentioned him earlier. I am going with the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. And going on Charlie Kirk's show, his comments, and I don't even know how the words to describe it. Despicable, just absolute, just quite frankly frightening from somebody that went to law school, somebody who should understand the Constitution, should understand the bedrock principles, sitting there talking about how they're going to go after leftist organizations. I've only taught government in high school, Tim. I'm not a lawyer. I only have a political science degree, whatever that's worth. But seems to me, I remember in the First Amendment that one of the things that are guaranteed is that we have the ability to peaceably assemble. I can tell you right now, and for anybody that's listening to this, I've never owned a gun. I've never fired a gun. I probably never will fire a gun in my whole life. I will not allow a gun in our home. And that's probably one of the only things that I've ever put my foot down about. But so I am probably about as close as anybody can come to a pacifist. But the general idea that the government could come after me because of what I believe is just completely antithetical to everything that that we believe in. And have you heard of the Cato Institute, Tim?
I have, yeah.
What's their leanings politically?
Pretty sure they're far right, are they not?
They are. But see, what's funny thing is they came out with a study of which groups do the most political violence. Do you know what their findings were?
Single white males.
Over 80% were from the political right. 10% were from the left. And I think the other ones were, sometimes they label Islamic groups separately. And then there's like unaffiliated and all this, that, and the other, right? So actually, I think now that I think about it, I'm sorry. I was overshooting. I want to be right in my facts. I think there was about 65% right, about 10% liberal, and then the other 25% mixed between Islamic and other things, right? So why are we targeting left-leaning groups? You got to start asking yourself that question. Why did the administration actually erase a Department of Justice study that showed the exact same thing the Cato Institute found? Wonder why we're doing that, Tim. And to sit there and say, and he had Stephen Miller on his show, who's been a past award winner of this award, some of the worst people around. You, J.D. Vance, have shown yourself to be unfit to lead. Absolutely unfit to lead. It's, at this moment, what I think everybody is looking for, what I think most people want, is most people want things to calm down. That's what they want. I don't want anybody to get shot, Tim. I think gun violence in the 20th and 21st centuries is our version of the bubonic plague here in the United States. We've probably had, cancer's probably gotten more people than gun violence, but there isn't many things that have gotten more people killed than gun violence. I don't want anybody shot and killed with a gun. And it doesn't matter what they believe. It doesn't matter, how they vote. That doesn't matter. And I want anybody's listening to this, trying to figure out, okay, where do I stand on this? Unequivocally, I don't want anybody shot and killed in this country. That's where I'm at. And for the Vice President of the United States to sit there and say, we're going to target you if you're a left-leaning individual or if you're a left-leaning group? What effect is that going to have? What do you think is going to happen? Well, I can tell you two things are going to happen that are already happening. Number one, we're seeing people getting fired from their jobs for speech that is not offensive.
Actually, quoting Charlie Kirk.
What did Jimmy Kimmel say that was offensive?
He didn't bend the knee.
So that's one thing. So you're going to cause us to be afraid. That's absolutely number one. You're going to cause us to cower because, Tim and I, we're leftist. We're proud leftist. But we're also fathers. We're also husbands. And we want to be able to support our kids. So we're going to mute some of the things that we probably believe in order to maintain our position in this economy. That's just number one. But number two, when you tell people that are already, let's just say, a little bit rabid, that, hey, those leftists are coming after us now. What else is going to happen, Tim?
No, they're sicking the dogs on us in no less than obvious terms, right? Like they want more political violence. They just don't want right-wing people to die. They want those people who were at January 6th to be what is Trump's version of the brown shirts and come fucking kill us.
And if there isn't a person out there that, unless you're MAGA, unless you're one of those people, you need to be scared right now. Because at some point you're going to have an opinion that somebody doesn't like. And you might, and there's that famous, thing from the minister back in World War II. Well, I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't care. I wasn't, a labor unionist, it wasn't all those things. So Tim and I probably are pretty close to what, some people would classify as socialist. But
I'm open about it.
But but I don't like labels, but that's where I'm at. So you might sit there and say, hey, I'm not socialist, so I'm going to be fine. Are you really? Are you? What happens if they come after you, if you're one of those people that says, show us the Epstein files, and they determine, hey, anybody says that, you're a threat to the state. We're going to have to get you. It doesn't take long, and it isn't very hard to imagine how this can go sideways. This can go sideways any number of ways, and any number of ways, it's going to end badly for us.
There's no way it doesn't end badly, Scott, because here's what is 1,000% going to happen. Trump's going to die in office, right? Like, I think you and I both agree this man does not have 3.5 more years left in him. I don't see that happening. And if and when that happens, do you remember what happened do you know what happened when Stalin died, right? Like, yep. It was a power grab and almost like a comedy of errors to the point where, like, there's a movie made about it called The Death of Stalin because, like, no one knew what to do. There's going to be a power grab like you've never fucking seen in your life before between the Christian extremists and the tech bros who have infiltrated the Republican Party. And they're going to fight it to the fucking death because the tech bros have the vice president of the United States. Peter Thiel created J.D. Vance. He funded every bit of his life. He sent him to law school. He got him elected into elected government. He paid for him to be Trump's vice president this time around. But MAGA doesn't exist without Christian nationalists. So we're in for... It's going to be a really nasty dogfight, and we're going to get caught up in some shit that we really, you're choosing a douche and a turd, but at the same time, it's easy to target us when everything else is going wrong.
Well, we're the innocent bystanders, and innocent bystanders always get caught. And that's, That's going to be the unfortunate thing. And you've also got the other folks. I mean, you're going to have, you've got other factions in that group as well. I mean, you got the tech bros, you got the Christian nationalists, but then you're also going to have like your old guard Republicans thinking, hey, it's our time again. So it's, and I don't think JD Vance, I don't think he's it. So
no one actually trusts him to lead, but he is a figurehead, right? Like, if JD Vance becomes president, everybody knows he's a puppet, right? Like, at that point, the tech bros have won, right? Like, Curtis Yarvin has allowed his political theory to be played out in real life as, essentially serfdom is brought back into play, and the biggest corporation in every city becomes like the ruler of each individual city state. Like, that's what these guys want. They want to be kings. They think they're the smartest people in the world because they built companies, and we let them do it. So good job, guys. Really fucking good job. Yeah. So excited.
All right, Tim, who do you got?
My scumbag's ABC this week, particularly for the firing of Jimmy Kimmel. And it was, as you said, for nothing that was offensive. It was for acknowledging that Kirk is a divisive guy. And, you and I, we mentioned we're both staying out of this. I haven't written anything about it, mostly because I work for a news organization and I don't want to lose my job over this. And I wrote my Substack for a solid year without ever worrying about anything I wrote costing me my job, right? Like, I don't think I was divisive. I don't think you can deny that my Substack wasn't divisive, but I also think it was factual. I think it was with the goal of helping people understand my mindset on certain things. But I don't think, even if I explain my mindset on how I feel about what happened with Charlie Kirk, right? If I put it out word for word on where I feel and how I feel about his views and everything that goes with it, I can explain it as well as I want, but like, it'll still cause outrage. It'll still cause people to flip the fuck out. And it's not fair, right? And what happened to what happened at ABC is so with Kimmel is so scary because we've already lost Stephen Colbert, who essentially the Trump organization found a way to force out through this Paramount deal. Now you lose Jimmy Kimmel. Like, you mentioned we should be scared. Like, we are being silenced. There's really no way around what's happening other than to say prominent voices who disagree with this administration are being silenced. And like, could you imagine if Obama had called up Fox News and was like, you need to fire these 7 people or else we're going to wage so many fines against you for FCC violations that you'll never be able to operate again. But if you fire these people, fines go away. Could you imagine? Could you imagine how that would go over? Like, it would the right would fucking lose their shit. But now here they are saying Kimmel got what he deserved. That's what you get for saying those things. Yada 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 yada. Like, if you live your life in a way that this many people react viscerally to you getting shot and killed, maybe that's the loudest thing there, right? Like, no, you shouldn't have to say anything. That the reaction itself says it all. The fact that it's so visceral one way or the other should tell you that you led a life that brought people apart instead of, helping them come together.
And I'll point out that Trump is going to lose on this regard. Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, they're going to find a platform. And they're going to find a platform that's probably better than CBS and ABC. I mean, would you agree with that?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I don't know what platform that would be. Their format isn't designed for streaming, really.
Right, but the thing is that, but they can come up with a different podcast. Format. They can come up with a different format and blow them away. And so, because I think that late night format is, I mean, the whole idea of appointment viewing at 10 p.m. plus just isn't there. I think, that's part of me. Heck, Colbert won an Emmy. Now, that's people saying you're the best at this, and you've lost your job. I mean, could you imagine that, Tim? Here, employee of the month. Oh, by the way, you can pack your bags. You're going out. I mean, that's basically what's happening. And so I think both of them and the rest of them, like you want to throw in John Oliver, you want to throw in, I don't know if, who am I
mean, Jon
thinking?
Stewart's doing really well over at the
John
Daily Show.
Stewart, definitely. Jon Stewart, definitely. I'm trying to think of, who am I thinking? The former, Seth Meyers is probably another guy, you know, he's okay. He's not.
I don't think he goes as political, so he kind of just skates around.
And then
Fallon probably gets away with a lot of it the same way.
Fallon, I don't think Fallon and Myers are quite on that level, but I think those three, that if you sit there and you put them in a room, they're going to figure out a way to proverbially bury you. Because, I mean, those are pretty sharp guys, and they're going to have a team of writers, and they're going to and as the South Park guys have shown, the satirists get the last laugh.
Yeah, I mean, if you legitimately wanted to win a campaign in the United States, right? If you were a Democrat and you wanted to win, I think the smartest thing you could do, like, I'm hiring Jon Stewart and John Oliver to write all of my speeches, right? Like, they will cut to the bone. They will have moments of brevity. They will hit home. But, like, you're going to speak to the American populace, right? Like, we need to stop trying to limit what, like, the left is, right? Like, hey, we need to find a left that really doesn't talk about, like, the whole gay thing or climate change or da-da-da-da. Like, no, we need to speak for everyone, right? Like, to take it all the way back, by like the definition that you and I both grew up for, and being Catholic and being Christian was to take care of marginalized populations, right? Like, if you're in a position to do so, you should always take care of those people in need. And so to build a party that just like, well, we could just forget about them and just like take care of ourselves, but like not have fascism, just leads to like fascism coming back later on. So yeah, like if I could run for president, I would hire Jon Stewart to write my speeches. Like, you're my head speech writer, and you're going to make me really, really fucking likable.
So remember what Walter White said? Did you watch Breaking Bad?
I do.
No half measures.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think of myself more as a Saul Goodman, but either way,
everybody loves Saul.
Everybody calls him too.
Yeah, you got to recall Saul. Yeah, it's all good, man.
All right, I think that's all we have for you here this week. I know we talked about trying to check in on the old ruse, but I have nothing new for you there, Scott. I have some calls out waiting to hear back, but with everything that's going on, we're kind of afraid to talk too much about what's going on with the Kangaroos.
Yeah, I have a rumor I'm trying to run down, Tim, but given the political climate right now, that's probably not a good idea to mention that.
Yeah. So we can talk about the Roos. We will talk about the Roos. But till then, we hope the Astros keep swinging the bats well. As we said, big series over the weekend against the Seattle Mariners. Let's hope the offense continues to show up. And hey, maybe this is where Fromber turns it back around. I appreciate everybody who joined us this week. We'll see you next week on Born on the Bayou Sports.